I've got some good news to share. Actually, a couple things. First thing, you guys have heard me talk about how my wife has been pregnant this year. My daughter Aspen was born just over a week ago, and both mama and the baby are happy, healthy, so we're good to go there. And even more good news that's not even close to being on the same level is we got a new plasma cutter. You might have noticed the content has been a little dry as far as making progress on my 89 Toyota pickup. Partially because of the baby. It's hard to spend money on things when you know you've got this big life-changing event coming up. But the other reason is my old plasma cutter literally blew up. Sounded like a gunshot, and she let all of the sparks out of the back. And as you guys know, the 3-link that I've been making on the Toyota pickup, all the brackets, everything has been made in-house with my arc droid. And the arc droid is completely useless without a plasma cutter. And thanks to the kind folks over at Harbor Freight, we're back in action. Alright, so now that we got the arc droid set up with the brand new Harbor Freight titanium 65 amp plasma cutter, let's wheel that old Toyota pickup into the shop and get to work. Remember how in the last video we got this thing all hooked up, dialed in with the Spitronic standalone ECU and harness, and running? Well, I'm about to undo all of that work because I want to pull this motor out. If we look down there, that is the old engine mount setup. It's literally a plate coming boop, straight out of the frame to these rubber mounts here into the factory 1UZ mount. I never did any sort of gusseting here because I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't meant to last. And now that I know I need to move the motor, that's confirmed. And the only real way to get those plates out of there is to pull the motor out and then get in there with a grinder and make it all nice again, which is good. I think ultimately here, I'm gonna pull the motor, attach the transmission, cut those mounts off, and then install it all as one unit, get it mocked up into place, build mounts around its new position. Yep, let's do it. Now that we got the engine out, we got a real good view of these plates that I need to cut out. And you can see how it's just easier to cut it all out with the motor removed. But yeah, should be pretty straightforward. I didn't gusset this thing for a reason. Now that those old frame side engine mounts are all cut off and ground down, it's time to bolt the tranny to this thing. The KS Racing bell housing kit that I used to adapt the 1UZ to the R150 came with an Aisin clutch and pressure plate, and I see no need to replace this. It's still in great shape, and it's an Aisin clutch, so I've got a lot of confidence in this guy still being good for a couple of years. There we go. There's the R150 mated to the 1UZ. It seems pretty well balanced here. with the tranny attached on the engine hoist. So this is how I'm gonna put it in. I'm not gonna bolt on the transfer cases yet because that adds a ton of weight and leverage, like right to the end of the tranny here. Plus I'll have to try to align it with my cross member, which I might redesign to make it as easy as possible. This is all that's going in. Alright, I think I've got this thing dialed on where she's gonna lie now. With the angle finder zeroed out here on the frame, we take that, put it up on the intake manifold. It is also 0. Well, it was just 0. Yeah, 0. So yeah, I got the engine level with the frame. It's scooted forward a bit. I can now kind of put my pointer finger behind the heads here, whereas before it was touching. And it's also dropped down, I think about 3/4 of an inch from where it was before. But we got transmission fitment. And this is how the transmission looks from underneath. As you can see, it is like super close to the floor here. And that's why I'm thinking I want to redo this cross member, because it is super low-hanging fruit here, which isn't ideal for a rock crawler because this is just going to get snagged on everything. So I'm going to redo it with less of a drop, and I'm going to have the T-cases as high as possible. I've been playing around with some cardboard and doing some measurements and stuff, and I think I figured out how I want to build them. Now I'm off to the computer, draw up some engine mounts, and then we get to play with the new stuff. And just like that, we have this guy. Boom. This 2-inch diameter circle is actually this 2-inch material that I have here. I'm going to cut it down because that is where those bushings are going to live. So before I get too ahead of myself and build this side of it, I think I'm going to cut a chunk of that tubing off and at least build the frame side of it and make sure I'm happy and that it looks like it's going to clear both the upper link and the exhaust, because there's so many questions when packaging this stuff. So last night I finished off by getting the frame side part of the engine mounts welded into place, and now it's time to move on to the motor side. So the first order of business today is to go inside and play with some CAD. We gotta draw up a plate that has all of these holes. This is what mounts to the engine block, and then we can build some sort of standoff that connects to the frame side after. So here we have two engine side mounts. Now that that plate is up there, you got a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. The engine mount itself is like slightly off center of the plate, which is fine. I've got this guy I've drawn up that is going to go straight from the engine mount over top of the bushing, and then the one on the other side is going to have to go in and then kick over and then straight on. But for now, we'll get this guy blasted out and then mocked up on both sides and go from there. Check it out. We've got that kind of like side mount plate dealio, and we've got the hardware. I've already got the bushing into place on the frame side. How about we see if it fits? This guy goes there. Aha! Just like it's supposed to. Weird. Check it out. We have an engine mount. Now, because of how wide the bushings and this tube is, I had to put a little offset bend in this plate here. But do you see the problem that I see? It's gonna be fun to try to put a bolt in here. But what I have come up with is some shorter bolts that will just barely sneak in there. So I think this plan is a go. You guys might have noticed something in the beginning of the past few videos, and that is that we don't have a title sponsor anymore. And that means this video is brought to you by Dirt.Garage. If you guys do me a huge favor, head to the website, Dirt.Garage.ca, grab a hat, t-shirt, whatever, everything helps the channel. Or even something as little as subscribing to the channel, liking this video, everything is appreciated. Now that that little plug is done, let's get back to these motor mounts. Now that they're all tacked up and in place, it's time to lift up the motor a little bit, pull those mounts out, weld them out fully outside of the truck, and add a little plate to the top. We got her all installed on both sides. Out of curiosity, if I cut out a couple more of these engine mounts and kind of sold them as a kit on the website, like a weld it yourself kit, is that something you guys would be interested in? Because I know a lot of you guys are into these 1UZ swaps and are probably... Because I know a lot of you guys are into these 1UZ swaps and are looking for an engine mount solution, and this would work with 3-liter or 22RE trucks because it goes right off the frame rail. Next up, we'll just take, doop, doop, and as you can see, the engine is fully on those mounts. Anyways guys, that's about all I got time for this week. I was hoping to get it running and driving this week, but with the newborn, still this week has been pretty crazy. Anyways guys, do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, and hey, consider subscribing. We upload weekly Toyota, building, wheeling, and off-roading content. Anyways, we'll catch you next week. Peace.